Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to Christianity and Pop Culture, the show where things are popular in culture, and we thusly analyze the Christianity within them. I'm Jason Hennig, probably not your co-host, and certainly not your host for today. Speaking of today we're talking about a show so deep and profound, we might need 2 episodes to talk about it. We're talking about Neon Genesis Evangelion. Just kidding. That show isn't deep. It just pretends to be. The writers even admitted it. No, but take out your crunchiest rolls because today we are talking about an anime, the wildly popular Sword Art Online. Okay, so maybe it was wildly popular a few years ago, but it's still influential enough that whenever someone makes an anime about video games, people compare it to SAO. If you're not big on the anime scene, we'll catch you up to speed. Sword Art Online is a show that follows Kirigaya Kazuto, a prolific gamer, on his journey to escape Sword Art Online, a virtual reality game that forced all the players to stay logged in forever, and
if I die in the game, I'll die in real life.
Stakes were high, and his player character Kirito did his best to get as many people out as possible. The rest of the show is, well, basically just that again, told in a different way through 2 more games with varying numbers of people. That said, the show had a solid run of 2 seasons that should have been 3, and there's a lot of material to work with, which is why we're just going to ignore most of it and talk about the first half of the first season. So, spoilers ahead, obviously. Brief note. I make the argument pretty frequently that Christianity seeps into Western culture all the time, but the genre savvy among you may point out that Sword Art Online is in fact Japanese. I'd give you a boring history lesson on Oda Nobunaga, the importation of Christianity to Japan, and the eventual globalization of American culture in the latter half of the 20th century, but suffice it to say that I'm fairly confident that Christian imagery and themes make their way into modern Japanese works as well. That being said, I would like to present to you with the Jesus story. Sword Art Online. What? You don't see the Christ story in Sword Art Online? You mean to say that the story of the boy who's raised by people not his parents enters a world steeped in evil as a special being is tempted by the evil of the world to join him, sacrifices himself to save the world only to be brought back to life, and through his sacrifice successfully vanquishes the evil and saves the world isn't the Christ story? Because that sounds a lot like the Christ story to me. You could argue that the girls who start following him around are like the disciples, but that would be a loose argument at best. So, I get it. Mary was Jesus' actual mother, and she raised him. But the point of him being all not actually her son is important. They make sort of a deal out of it in the Bible. It's a thing. Kazuto's parents died in an accident, and he was raised by his aunt and uncle. That's it. That's the point. He wasn't raised by his parents. Next slide. Okay, so Kazuto is from this world, but Kirito, his player character, isn't. Because Kirito is a character in a video game, he was created into the world of Aincrad. Sound a little flimsy? Maybe. But then remember that when everyone gets trapped in the game, they lose their avatars.
Climb! You're a guy?
You're not 17!
Kirito looks like Kazuto and thus is actually the guy from Out of the World, now in the world. Sure, that happened to everyone else as well, but think of it as a manufactured plot point to support the trope, not the other way around. You bet he's a special being. He's really special.
410 seconds, give or take. That's about the total damage the 7 of you can inflict on me. I'm level 78. I got 14,500 HP. My battle healing skill auto-regenerates 600 points every 10 seconds. We could stand here all day and you wouldn't get anywhere.
And that scene's not the end of it. He also gains a unique sword skill that allows him to dual wield. Super unique. He's literally the only one with it. Heathcliff, who turns out to be the bad guy in disguise, even admits that he designed this online game to pick a protagonist. That protagonist would be given the dual-wielding skill, and he'd confront and fight Heathcliff over the fate of the players in the game. He was literally and genuinely chosen to save the world. And save the world he did. Sword Art Online was the twisted vision of a man gone evil, and again,
if I die in the game, I'll die in real life.
To be fair, Kirito entered the world before this happened because nobody could enter afterwards. However, I'd say it's safe to assume that our villain had this whole thing planned all along since he built the hardware, designed the software, and built a series of underground servers, all to force people to stay in the game. Guessing that one wasn't off the cuff. Kinda. I'll admit, this is probably the loosest part of the story, but I think it still fits. Kirito is going through a period of trials, you might say, during the middle of the Aincrad arc. Similar to Jesus fasting in the wilderness, because of a number of things that made Kirito sad or happy, he was forced to endure things we could call trials. As an example, he battled to try to resurrect one of his friends, which he discovered was impossible, one of the few major differences between he and Jesus. The trial we're concerned about is when he was forced to duel Heathcliff. If he won, his girlfriend would get out of Heathcliff's guild, and if he lost, Kirito would become part of the guild. Kirito ended up losing the duel because Heathcliff cheated, but he continued to resist being truly a part of Heathcliff's guild until the last. Now, this is like the big one. In fact, looking at the show from this lens, it suddenly makes more sense and fills in a big plot hole. In their final duel over the fate of the world, Kirito dies to Heathcliff, or at least he should have. He was reduced to 0 HP. However, for some miraculous reason, he is able to attack and kill Heathcliff despite being technically dead himself. As a result, the process that would have killed him in real life is cancelled? I mean, he still dies in the game. He even goes to the realm where the villain watches everything fall apart because they beat him, you know, like hell. And then he's okay. He wakes up back in the real world. This bizarre series of events makes a lot more sense in light of Kirito being Discount Jesus. Of course he would die and be resurrected. In fact, he died and was resurrected to defeat death in the world of Aincrad. Nobody could ever truly die there again. The Christ story fulfilled. There you go. Sword Art Online is just the Jesus story. Big thanks to the internet meme calling him Jesus Coon and to my brother for giving me the inspiration for this topic. To those of you wondering when Victoria will be back, my answer for you is, sometime. With either a giant walking fortress and Birdman or a lady who flies with an umbrella. I'll leave you to figure out what those are. See you next time.